What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back for another video. Today I want to cover some Walking Dead stuff. Of course, we had Comic-Con this weekend. It's being only Saturday, but it is still going on. But I would say the main things are kind of done with. They've released a lot of trailers. We had our Walking Dead Daryl Dixon panel yesterday, and we got some news regarding that. And I did cover this a little bit in my last video, kind of my welcome back video. I was gone for the last week. I was actually down in Florida. I made a pit stop in Georgia to visit Sonoya where they filmed, and I did a stream from the former set of Alexandria, so please go check that out. But this video I want to talk about just everything we got going so far, speculation, theories, everything that's coming up with Daryl Dixon coming to an end after season 4, which in my opinion, and I think it's an opinion that a lot of people share, but super relieved that it is coming to an end. There was no logical way that they could drag this on for 6, 7, 8 seasons. It was just something they shouldn't have even thought about doing. Honestly, I think it's something that Scott Gimple wanted to do, and AMC kind of stepped in and be like, no, we're not doing that, because there's been a lot of backlash with the show, because there's things that we want to see that they just aren't delivering on. There's, of course, the reunions. We want to see the reunions. There's a lot of them that we want to see, but the big one being Rick and Daryl. We want to see that reunion. We want to get that wrapped up. We don't want this to drag on from Daryl hopping from place to place with new characters that will inevitably end up dead. And just everything that they keep wanting to drag on. It's not that I'm complaining about Daryl as a character. It's just the stories that they keep kind of recycling and then putting a new spin on it or whatever, and then just going from season to season doing that. And just, it was not working. But I just wanted to talk about, everything that's going on right now. We had our Daryl Dixon season 3 trailer. I am going to actually break that down for you, but along with that, just talk about everything that's going on right now with Daryl Dixon coming to an end after season 4, Dead City being renewed for season 3. Is that going to be the same thing that they're going to do for Dead City? Are they going to give it these last couple of seasons and then to wrap up their story? Or are they going to continue on being their own story? Which, in my opinion, Dead City has that potential a little bit more than Daryl Dixon does, because Daryl Dixon is just on kind of this endless vacation, and there's really no drive or anything for his story. Just him and Carol coming across different characters and whatnot, coming across different communities. And so there's only so much that they can do with that. And that's just kind of my, my own personal opinion. Of course, I love Daryl Dixon, I love Walking Dead, I love all of it, but I do have my criticisms about it. And so I wanted to talk about that, break down this trailer, talk about the upcoming season, which, by the way, apparently has 7 episodes, which is, obviously kind of deviating from the normal 6 that we've gotten. Dead City season 2 had 8 episodes. Season 4 of Daryl Dixon will have 8. So we're getting 15 more episodes of Daryl before he hopefully goes home in that last season. Hopefully they're not going to kind of pivot and go into another random direction and not give us any kind of closure to the stories that we want to see, because it can be all done very simply. Daryl go home and he walk up to the gates of Alexandria. Of course, they would have to reconstruct that, but honestly, they would just have to reconstruct that front gate. That's all they'd have to do. But I mean, they probably have to reuse other pieces of the wall, because those the original gates themselves are on display down in Sonoya, which I did go see, and that's part of my live stream that I did. But something very simple. I mean, he ends that series. He comes home. He walks up to the gates of Alexandria. We have someone open that gate as he's approaching. Boom, Rick right there. There's our reunion, and then we kind of go from there. We can have them, obviously kind of go after other plot holes, other character returns, other cameos, where Rick sees Daryl come up. They have their brotherly embrace and whatnots, and Rick's like, well, we got some things to talk about. And one of those things being that we know that Morgan's looking for him, or we've got other cameos that we want to see. There's just so many things they could do with it. It's just a matter of executing it, the way that it will work, not just continuing to draw out these characters, draw out the series or the universe for the sake of doing so. But with that little bit out of the way, I want to also break down the trailer for Daryl Dixon season 3 that we got yesterday with the panel and the announcement of season 4 being the last. But this one, I just want to talk about what's coming with this 3rd season. And I hope that it is done correctly. I hope that it is kind of a natural flow of story, not just going from one direction to the other or anything like that. Just give it a proper flow of a story. And so let's jump in here, break this down. This first frame, this is Daryl and Carol. This is probably shortly after they emerge from the tunnel that goes into London. And being that they're wandering the streets, and I believe from some of the opening minutes that we got, they're not coming across a lot of walkers, but I do actually see one in the background, and I know there's actually probably a horde or a small group of them that they come across. But we see that they are in London, and we do have a small horde with this picture that I got here. Um, and then shortly after they get into London, they meet Julian, who's played by Stephen Merchant, who I hope is a character that actually lives. I hope that they have some good story for him, because he has this whole thing about how he is the only person left in London, because they ask him where all the people are. And he is the only one left, apparently. I mean, I'm sure there's other people, but they've gone in hiding, or they just, have different things where they're trying to maybe stay incognito or whatever. Going to the next one, though, they have this conversation over their dinner, because they come across Julian kind of a weird way, where he is kind of rappelling down, or making his way up to wherever they are, and they have this little sit down dinner to try to talk about what's up with everything going on in London, where there just doesn't seem to be any people or anything, any survivors from the outbreak. And he says something to the nature of, we can sail over back to the States, because he's probably a pretty lonely guy and he doesn't want to be here anymore by himself or anything like that. So he joins them. And of course, they run into a storm that washes them to the shores of Spain. And that's how this whole next season kind of kicks off, where we have them washed up, and then Daryl and Carol visibly injured and kind of, I don't know, discombobulated or whatever, where they have Stephen Merchant, who I was certain that he was going to die kind of right off the bat, but that it looks like he might be joining them for a little bit longer, because we have what I believe is Carol and Julian helping Daryl, or them helping Carol, or somewhere over this scenery, going into this community that we got coming up within Spain. And this community is going to be something I think interesting, where we see that it's kind of an oppressive community, or it's being oppressed by this one guy. And we'll talk about him once we get to him. But this guy kind of welcomes them to the community. I don't know what we can expect from this guy yet, if he's going to be someone that is like Negan, or like the governor, someone that is very much, this is his land, this is his law, you're going to follow it, or we're going to do away with you. And then we just got Daryl here kind of wandering the streets, probably a little bit perplexed from the people wearing these masks, because it's probably all very strange to him. Then we have a cage of walkers. I'm not sure why they would have this, but who knows? I mean, for defensive purposes, or who knows? There's all kinds of possibilities that, things that we've seen throughout the seasons and throughout the shows, why they're using walkers for different things. And we got this one guy again sitting at a dinner table, and this is with Carol and Daryl, and I think Julian too, and probably some other people. But talking about how probably things are, how they have this kind of deal with another community, with this guy that Daryl claims to be, or calls him at least, the king of Spain. Then we got these guys dressed up in animal fur and skulls and probably different bones and everything. These are probably part of that community that's kind of keeping them in check, because we got this guy, and we have this voiceover from one of the survivors, or one of the members of this community, where this guy is kind of got them in kind of the same position that Negan had our community before, where they have to give him things for him to offer protection and things like that. But in this sense, it's completely anti-Negan, where this guy wants young women of the community. They offer them up, and he provides them with weapons and protection, and probably, various other things. But Daryl sees this, and his kind of first reaction, which is kind of surprising, that is to back off. It's not our fight, and we're going to leave, and we're just going to get home. But Carol kind of convinces him otherwise. So we can see here we have this young woman, and then we have, more than likely, it's her father being dragged away, trying to prevent this woman from being taken. And it's all very just dictatory, where we have this guy come in and says, you do things my way and I will protect you. If you don't, you'll probably be executed, or we'll take other things, or you'll be left to fend for yourselves. And so Carol, being kind of utterly shocked, being a domestic abuse survivor herself, where she's not going to stand for this. This might be something that's triggering for her, where she sees this happening. She knows that they need to do something about it, and she convinces Daryl. And then along the way, too, Carol meets this other guy who I guess becomes a love interest of some sort, because we do see kind of a romantic type setting and them kissing in one scene. But this is that discussion between her and Daryl where she's like, we can't just walk away. We can't leave these people like this. We have to stand up and we have to fight for them and show them that they, this isn't their only choice. There are options. You're not going to just be, you're not going to lay down and just take it. Where we have this group, this is probably that community or the dictator's army or whatever, because we see they have a convoy of trucks and it looks like the trucks are filled with supplies and whatnot, but also this one being kind of a cagey looking one in the back, where this is probably where they take people. And this is something I think that's going to play to the end of the season, going into the 4th season. But we see Daryl and Carol, they're having a discussion, then Daryl's like, you're right, we need to stand up for these people if they can't stand up for themselves. Because Daryl, being kind of a natural born rebel, he's not going to put up with this crap. So we see that they're going to start this fight for them, basically, and show them that you have other options. You don't have to put up with this crap. And we see Daryl riding off, probably to, light that fuse or whatever. Then we got this guy, I'm not sure, I think this might be the guy that we met at the beginning, leading a horde of walkers on horseback. So they might be gathering these to use them as maybe an offensive or something like that, where they are going to, do away with this guy that has had had his boot on their neck for so long. Then we got Daryl here up on this wall, kind of looking over, probably setting up a perimeter or just checking things out as he's making his way to help these people and whatnot. Then we got Daryl and some guy I don't recognize approaching a walker in the water. So got just probably all kinds of things going on. Then we got Carol here screaming. Then we got this one guy that we've seen in a few frames now where he seems to be kind of the leader of this community that has this arrangement with the other community. And so we've got a lot of different stuff going on. But we see Carol in kind of this distress moment. Maybe she sees somebody that she's come to be fond of get killed or something like that, because we have what appears to be a ball of walkers on fire being launched. So we're, new ways that they're using walkers as defensive and offensive measures. So there's all kinds of stuff going on in that regard, because once they're launched, they all just start getting up. And this is like almost throwing a bomb of sorts into a community and just kind of watch it take over the community. Then we got another truck. This is them, I believe, bursting through the gates of that community or into maybe another random place that they're going to kind of take over or whatever, because it looks like there's a walker pinned to the front of the truck. So I don't know if they've hit that or it's just already there. Then we got this random guy that appears to have had his eyeballs taken. So that's interesting. Then we got old dude up there with a chain gun and someone else helping him taking out these walkers. So these walkers were probably thrown at their community for maybe being, defiant or whatever. And this is them kind of taking it back and not putting up with it anymore, not being okay with this arrangement anymore. This is Daryl telling these people, it looks like they might be, I don't know, like they got blisters or something going on their hands, because we had another guy, another frame that I didn't get, but his face kind of looked the same way. So it might be just diseases and just things like that. But he's telling them that they need to fight, that there's other options and what have you. Because we got this guy who is the oppressor, the king of Spain, as Daryl called him. But we got Daryl and he's just ready to help these people break these chains and not be subjected to this anymore. But here's what I was talking about earlier, where we got this guy that Carol, I guess, has formed kind of a romantic type relationship with. Honestly, she'll probably tell him that she can't do this, or something will come up, or he just might get killed. Who knows? Then we got Daryl here in this weird kind of V for Vendetta type mask, or just kind of an opera mask, because we see in the next frame that they are using walkers. They have them like pinned or hooked to these chains and whatnot, kind of using them as puppets. So this is probably for the entertainment of that one guy. That would be my best guess. Then we got this dude. We've seen him in other trailers and sneak peeks and whatnot. This guy, he just has the stench of henchmen all over him. He's probably a guy that works for the oppressor and whatnot, maybe a lead of security or something like that, where he is the go-to guy of the oppressor, and Daryl's not having it, and this is where we see him charging at him on a bike, and he's got the gun. So this is probably towards the end of the season, maybe, or maybe in the middle. But other than that, we got this new title screen, which is actually kind of cool. So this next season of Daryl should be interesting. I have my reservations, of course, because I've just been pretty unimpressed so far with Daryl as a series and with what they've chosen to do with characters and storylines that were kind of abandoned there after the second season, and characters that were killed off for the sole purpose of bringing Carol back, and just the way that they approached telling this story and the things that they had Daryl doing, all for the hope that he would go on for multiple seasons. But it, officially it's been announced that he's not going to get past season 4. I don't know if this was simply a decision that was made for Scott Gimple, or one he made himself, or this is a response to the backlash that the show has gotten because people just want to see reunions at this point. But there's just so much that's uncertain right now, where we don't know what's going on, because Daryl Dixon was the only thing that we did get for Comic-Con. We didn't get any surprises or anything that's been announced yet. And so we're just left wondering, what's the plan from here? I mean, we know that Daryl's going to end after season 4, but what's that going to end with? Is it going to end with him actually getting home and walking up to the gates of Alexandria, which I explained could be done very simply? They wouldn't have to reconstruct all those walls, because why would they? But they could throw up another temporary gate or whatever and shoot an ending scene right there, and then continue on maybe at the Commonwealth or something like that. There's just so much that they could do. It's just, will they do it? Will they take advice from fans who know this show in some ways better than the producers or anybody like Scott Gimple knows, who have a passion for it, who want to see reunions? We want to see just the story be done and end in a way that makes sense, that's maybe even kind of conveniently takes care of some of those plot holes, some of those cameos that we were hoping to see, things that they set up in other shows, or just things that they've kind of bypassed over the years. But I guess that will do it. That is my breakdown for the trailer, but also my discussion for what's coming up with Daryl Dixon and everything. And I got a couple more videos planned, of course. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you stuck with it. If you did, please be sure to leave a like, leave a comment, consider subscribing. I'd really appreciate it, and I will see you next time. Take care. Bye.